The Florida Gators trenches are what's going to carry them through this season.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free for listening to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And the Florida Gators, look, we talked about DJ Lagway a lot. We will talk about DJ Lagway a lot more. However, I do think that it's important to talk about what's actually going to be one of the biggest driving forces of success for this team in 2025, which, yes, DJ Lagway is going to be a massive part of that. No one doubts that. No one denies that, right? Whether or not you trust him to stay healthy or not, his availability will play a huge part in the success of this team, of course. But what's going to be the driving factor of success week in, week out, consistently, is going to be the trenches. The offensive line is led by Jake Slaughter, who is widely considered the best center in the country. That's not me saying that from a Florida Gators fan perspective. That's not even me saying that as someone that evaluates players to the NFL draft. That's me saying that as someone that has eyes and ears and can hear and see what everyone is saying, which is that Jake Slaughter is the best center in college football. That's not just what fans are saying. That's not just what media is saying. That's what scouts are saying. That's what coaches are saying. That's what I hear. That Jake Slaughter is the best center in the country. Okay? He's leading this now in his third year as a starter, his second year going through the process fully as a starter because, of course, his first year as a starter, he wasn't supposed to be the starter until a late Kingsley Aguakin injury, and then Jake Slaughter took over. Left tackle, you've got Austin Barber. Left guard, you've got Knijeah Harris. Right guard, you've got Davion Gross, and right tackle, you've got Bryce Lovett. And I know that we're going to keep talking about DJ Lagway. I get it. But here on Locked On Gators, we talk about everything. And what we're also going to talk about is how this offensive line returning 4/5 of their starters cannot be overstated enough. It can't. Having 4 of your 5 starters from last year return on what was a good offensive line should help them be an elite offensive line. And I know that I've said this a billion times. I'm going to continue to say it. The offensive line is so much more than just who you have, right? It's not just about having All-American Jake Slaughter. It's not just about having potential high draft pick Austin Barber. It's not just about having potential high draft pick Knijeah Harris, who isn't getting much love, probably going to come back for another year, but keep in mind, he's draft eligible now. In his second year as a starter, he's going to have quality film out there. Right? It's not about having Bryce Lovett stepping into the role. It's not about who you have individually. An offensive line, and honestly, therefore, a football team, an offense at least, is the result of how they mesh together, how they fit together as a team. It's not about individually. I forget the saying, but basically saying that it's more important than just the parts you have. It's how they work together, more important than some of their parts or whatever the saying is. Don't care. Gonna be honest with you. Don't care about that one. But this is about the unit. I'm a Giants fan. When my team was great, been a while, and they were winning Super Bowls, been a while. They had good offensive linemen, but an elite offensive line as a unit. And that's what I think is more important than just having good offensive linemen or great offensive linemen like the Florida Gators have. It's about having a unit of offensive linemen that can go out there and play and be a unit. And Florida in year 2 with a lot of these guys, some guys in year 3, some guys in year 4 with the system, a lot of these guys should have that chemistry figured out to help them perform as a unit. And it's not just about who you have starting, right? Because we know that throughout football, people are going to get hurt. When's the last time Florida had an entire starting 5 offensive line start every game? Or when's the last time basically any team has had that? I didn't do the math, but I'd venture, I'd wager that it's a pretty low rate as far as how many teams get to do that or how often teams get to do that. So when you talk about the depth of this offensive line, that's also where Florida's looking pretty damn good, right? Rod Kearney is someone that I think is a honestly should be a starter. I think Rod Kearney's up there. I think Rod Kearney is, or I don't want to say should be a starter because I don't want to diminish anybody. We know how I feel about Davion Gross, but I think Rod Kearney is a starter quality player based on everything I've seen from him. I think having Caden Jones ready to step into a larger role at either tackle spot, I think he's one of those guys where he's got the physical tools to be able to contribute at both tackle spots and be able to be a high upside player. I think Fletcher Westfall can be the same at the other tackle spot. Jason Zandamello is a very high rated recruit that's now a going to be competing for backup center, I'll say. Florida's got their starting 5 offensive linemen that are back and that are good and that are quality. And again, or 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen from last year that are back and now have time to develop and time to work together and time to develop even more chemistry. They've got them back. And then they've also got backups that were here. We spoke about this, I think it was last week, that Florida has a very unique situation where they've got so many of the players from their 2 deep were here last year. Whether or not they were starters, whether or not they were significant contributors, they were here last year. They were in this strength and conditioning program, which has been killing. I don't care what you think about injuries. You're wrong if you're blaming strength and conditioning for most of the stuff that's happened. Most of the guys from the 2 deep were here last year. They've been in the strength and conditioning program. They've been learning the offense. They've been rotating. In practice, guys play all over the place with all different combinations of offensive line because you might need that. And so Florida's been putting themselves in position to win in the trenches, and this year might be your best chance to dominate in the trenches better than you've ever been able to. And iron sharpens iron, right? Florida's offensive line should be the strength of this team. Opening rushing lanes for Jaden Baugh, Jacoby Jackson, Trayon Webb, KD Daniels, Duke Clark. I don't care who's Chad Gasper. I don't care who it is. Just getting the football, Byron Lewis, if you want to say him too, getting the football to guys that have a ton of talent, ton of potential, getting them space with their offensive line, and protecting DJ Lagway so that we could talk about all these receivers with great speed. And now you got DJ Lagway with time to actually throw it to them. And that's vitally important. Iron sharpens iron when we talk about the defensive line, which we're about to when we get back with Locked On Gators. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money, okay? It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Personally, I use my phone for it. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, representing the podcast and on YouTube. And I mentioned iron sharpens iron. And that's a general saying they hear a lot in sports, really, right? You hear it at every level of sports. And I do think that you hear it more in football than any other sport. Because in football, you're genuinely going head to head. Even if I'm not a great receiver, I will become better by going up against better corners, right? I'm not saying that I'm making him better, but I'm saying that as a receiver, if I'm not great and I'm going up against a good corner, I'm going to get better by that. He's going to dominate and build his confidence. That's going to be it. But I'm going to get better by learning how to beat people that are better than me and improving myself. All right. When you have opposing forces, we'll say, that are both high quality, that's where you talk about iron sharpens iron. That's where it is. It's that you can go head to head, tit for tat, whatever you want to call it. You can go. And we've talked about this with Locked On Gators. I've talked about this with New York Giants on SI. Everyone talks about it. If you've got I guess last year we spoke about it even more with you've got Trey Wilson versus Jason Marshall Jr. That's going to make them both better. It is. That's one of the reasons that wide receiver DB, one-on-one reps, one-on-one drills, I like them. I think that they truly help make you get better because it's just me and you. There's no pass rush. There's no nothing. It's how long can I contain you? And for you, it's how quickly can you separate. In the trenches, that applies as well. And Florida's in a very unique spot where they've got, again, All-American center in Jake Slaughter. They've got a potential All-American defensive tackle in Caleb Banks. They get to go against each other all the time. I know that, there's mock drafts that have Caleb Banks going top 5. I disagree with that. I don't think that's going to happen unless he has a stellar year. But I do agree that he's a very talented defensive tackle. I do agree that he's very possibly, I don't even want to say very possibly, probable at this point in the game, a first-round pick. That benefits another first-round pick talent in Jake Slaughter, who might not be a first-round pick, mostly because of positional value at center. But Jake Slaughter going up against Caleb Banks, they're going to get better. Knijeah Harris and Davion Gross going up against Caleb Banks, they're going to get better. Austin Barber going up against George Gums, going up against Tyreek Sapp, they're going to get better. The Florida Gators in the trenches right now, more than anything else, have a true iron sharpens iron, I guess we'll say, opportunity. That's what we'll call it. We'll call it an opportunity, where these two strengths of the offense, strengths of the defense can go do battle, go to war. And we've heard reports from practices where it's like, oh yeah, the offensive line is having their best practices that they've had so far. You know what happened at the start of camp? It was the defensive line is doing a lot of damage to the offensive line. The defensive line is doing work. They're putting in work on this offensive line. Offensive line starts building their little routine, building their momentum. And then we start getting reports in recent days, offensive line's having their best days of practice. I'm willing to bet that later this week or early next week, we're going to start hearing reports that the defensive line is having really strong practices again. Because that's what this is. That's what iron sharpens iron is. It's guys who trade blows and are of equal talent, equal competition, and they just go at it. And if we'll say just hypothetically, Caleb Banks is beating Jake Slaughter doing whatever move he wants to do in practice. Jake Slaughter picks that up. And he's like, okay, this is what he's doing. Every time he steps this way, this is how he's attacking. Pre-snap, maybe he has a tell. Learning things, right? That's scouting too. That's oftentimes what you see with scouting. You go, hey, every time he does this is what he's doing next. They have tells. People have tells. No one thinks they have tells. People have tells. Okay. And for Florida, with the defensive line, they're getting better by going up against what should be a really good offensive line. Offensive line's getting better by going up against what should be really good defensive line. They're both getting better. They're both positioned to lead this team. Okay. I know that there's a bunch of Florida Gators fans who, and myself included, who have their questions about the secondary. We know generally what Devin Moore is when he's healthy. We know, I don't even want to say we know what Deshaun Johnson is. I feel like I know he's pretty good, but I don't want to say I know what he is because I feel like that also implies that well, I know he's not getting better. And that's not true at all, because Dijon Johnson is 1 year of starting experience, or 1 year of significant contribution, we'll say. I don't know what he is. I know what his floor is based off last year. Cormani, we don't know what he's going to be. He's got sky-high potential, and it's just about putting it together now. So I think that we know what we've got at some spots, and in the secondary, there's a lot of spots where we don't know, because behind them, we don't know anything. At safety, I feel like a lot of us know what Jordan Castell is at this point. He's got 2 full seasons as a starter under his belt. Bryce Thornton, I don't think we know what he is yet. I think he's a very smart safety that physically can catch up, and so I'd be very interested to see what happens there. We know we have at star Sharif Dance and Aaron Gates, whichever one it is. They're both just dudes. No other way to put it. And so I think that there are valid concerns there, right? I've said I don't like the depth in the secondary. I'm fine with the top part of it, but I don't like the depth in the secondary. Just because I don't know it, and if I don't know something, I don't like something. So, or at least when we're talking about roster depth, especially, I don't know it. I don't like it. I don't want to deal with that. That's why I don't like freshman starters. But I do think that a strong pass rush is capable of negating not great coverage, right? I think that, or actually, I don't want to say think. The hope from me, and honestly, I think the hope from the coaching staff, is that the pass rush will force quarterbacks to take riskier throws, throw riskier passes, throw worse passes just because they're feeling pressure, and let athletes on the back end make plays, even if they're not playing stellar coverage. All right, like you don't have to play lockdown coverage every single play, especially if you know you've got a pass rush that's getting to the quarterback, forcing him to make some errant passes, forcing him to make an off-platform throw. Leads to less accuracy, less power, more ducks, more picks. And I do think that regardless of how we feel about the technical coverage ability of really any player in the secondary, I've said it before, I don't know what Cormani is right now. Physically, I know he's an elite athlete with all-world length. But on film, you see the big poppy plays, right? You see the pick six, you see the insane deflection against Kentucky. You see those plays. But then when you watch the film on a play-by-play basis, you see there's some plays where he just kind of looks like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And Billy Napier has mentioned he needs to learn the playbook better. If you're a great athlete, like again, I can say I don't know what your coverage ability is, but if the pass rush is getting there and we're forcing some iffy passes, athletes can go make those plays and make people pay for them. And I think that when you've got a great pass rush like Florida should have this year, and you've got great athletes like Florida does have on the back end, I think those are I think that's a good marriage there. A good marriage of a pass rush that's going to force you to make some mistakes, force you to make some worse passes, and guys on the back end that can make you pay for doing that. And I think Florida's got a good spot there. So I think the D-line, like secondary might have a ton of picks this year, but the D-line is going to deserve a ton of the credit for it. Not to take it away from the secondary, but D-line is going to deserve credit for getting to quarterbacks and forcing them to make some of those passes. We're going to talk about Davion Gross, who committed to the Florida Gators on Monday. Days get confused with practice and everything. Davion Gross, who committed to the Florida Gators on Monday when we get back with Locked On Gators. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators on Monday evening added a commitment from Davion Gross out of Texas, Frisco, Texas. And 6'1", 190 is what he's listed as. 4-star on Rivals, 4-star on 24/7, 4-star on ESPN. On Rivals, he's the 54th player in the country, 7th receiver in the country, 4th player in the state of Texas. On 24/7, 83rd player in the country, 6th receiver, 13th player in the state of Texas, which is wild variety there. He's 29 spots worse on 24/7, but he's 1 receiver spot higher and 9 in-state spots lower. That's just wild variety there. A lot of variance. On ESPN, he is the 36th overall player, 4th receiver, 4th player in the state of Texas. Again, decent variety is a little weird just because he is 28 spots higher on ESPN than he is on Rivals, but he's still the 4th player in the state of Texas. And I feel like that's not common considering Texas is well, Texas. And as far as the Rivals industry national ranking composite, whatever you want to call it, at this point they've changed the name. But is the 60th national player, 6th receiver, 7th player in the state of Texas, and of course 24/7 drags him down all the way over there. But also ESPN drags him up about the same rate, so really they cancel out. He's 28 spots higher on ESPN than he is on Rivals, but he's also 29 spots lower on 24/7. So they kind of cancel out there. But 4-star running back receiver hybrid. Like you watch the film, and if I'm not mistaken, his first plays at running back, second plays at receiver, first plays a carry where he makes some stuff happen, creates some space. Second play is a deep shot down the sideline, which is fun, right? Like I love that type of player. I've always been a fan of the positionless football style of getting a bunch of guys. Like again, I mentioned this on the live show. Like Randall Cobb is a player that I used to love when I was younger because he was that. He was the receiver running back hybrid. He could do a bunch. You could put him anywhere, and he could be effective at all those spots. And I think with Davion Gross, some stuff has been overplayed. I love the addition. I think he's a great football player. I think he's one of the best players in the class. I will be coming out, or I will be updating my recruiting rankings of this class either this week or next week. But Davion Gross is someone that I've seen on social media. The post of the staff compared him to Percy Harvin. I don't think I believe that. I don't think the staff would compare him to Percy Harvin because I think comparing anybody to Percy Harvin is, I'm not going to do the whole like disrespectful to Percy thing. I think it's setting an unrealistic expectation for the player. I think that's tough to compare someone to Percy. Percy Harvin is one of, if not the most dynamic football players to ever touch a college football field, especially, right? It's him and Tavon Austin are neck and neck up there for best highlights, right? And which, by the way, also when Justin Williams committed to Florida, a bunch of the reports were, "Yep, he's Percy Harvin." Can we not be lazy? Can we not be lazy and just compare every running back receiver type to Percy? Can we avoid that? It's lazy. There's no other way to put it. Running back, receiver, Florida, everyone goes Percy Harvin. Branch out a little bit. Branch out a bit. Get more creative with it. Take a risk every now and then. It's fine. We'll talk about mine. But I also I just don't think it's true that they said that. I don't think it's true they compared him to Percy Harvin. I think maybe they said we can use you how Percy Harvin was used. And I think that might be a bit more accurate. I think that'll be a more accurate way to put it is that they'll say, hey, we can use you how Percy was used, but to compare someone to Percy is just ludicrous, right? I think a lot of people would agree with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I know that, especially college football fans, we tend to fall in love with the recruit and see the film and go, oh my God, he could be this great. I understand wanting to compare people to Percy, but Percy's a different breed. He's a one of one. He's not, oh yeah, Florida has 2 Percys in this class. He's a one of one. That's it. There's no other way to put it. I think Davion Gross is going to be great. I don't think he's Percy. I don't think it's reasonable or realistic to expect someone to be Percy. I'd argue that there's a better case to say that maybe Davion Gross is someone who's a bit more I don't even want to say just stylistically comparable, because Percy was also just a completely different build literally, like just build wise, he was completely different. He was someone that you don't see how rocked up his frame was, and the speed that he has. I don't care that he ran like a 4.4. Means nothing to me. Him running a 4.4 is garbage. I don't care about it. And like even the height and weight's not going to be too far off, right? Like Percy was 5'11", 200. Not far off from Davion Gross's 6'1", 190. But I think that you're better off going with someone like Deebo Samuel, like for a more modern variation, like a Deebo Samuel. Maybe like a rookie-ish DJ Moore. Like DJ Moore as a rookie was so heavily based on catching it underneath, creating yards after catch. I'm pretty sure, except for last year, DJ Moore's lowest average depth of target in his career was as a rookie, where he was getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage. They were handing the ball off to him. They were lining him up everywhere and just giving him the football, letting him make plays. DJ Moore's another like 6 foot, 200, 210 pound guy. Like, I think you're better off, and you're also just more accurate comparing a guy like Davion Gross to a Deebo or a DJ Moore, where it's, they're 6 foot ish, 200 plus pounds, viable receivers that from day one you can give them the ball underneath, you can hand them the ball, and you can just let them go make plays. And I think that your team still works. It's still great. You don't have to say Percy. You don't got to compare every quarterback to Tebow, every running back receiver hybrid to Percy, like every corner to Joe Hayden. Like, you don't need to compare everybody to the great, especially the great at that school. You could branch out a little bit. I think Davion Gross is going to be really good. He's not going to be Percy, but I think he's going to be really good. And it's not that I don't think he's going to be – it's not that I think he's not going to be Percy because he's not good. It's that he's not going to be, I think, not going to be one of the most dynamic football players of all time. And I think that's fair. I think Davion Gross is a hell of a football player. I would gladly take a Deebo or a DJ Moore on my team. I don't care. I don't care about the fact that they played for another school. They're good football players. I'd gladly take that talent, that skill set on my team any day. And Davion Gross is going to be a damn good football player. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free. Visit the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators or Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find out my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.